The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We'll bring you the news and reviews of your favorite brews. I am Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
We have today featured, as I'm sure you know, because you already looked at your phone. Like, this is still, you can take the guy out of radio, but again, you can't take the radio out of the guy. Not a butt joke. In radio, they tell you to tease everything, but in a podcast, like, you've already looked at the episode on your phone or your iPad or computer, whatever you're listening to. So you know we're joined by somebody from Therapy Brewing, and that would be...
Hi, I'm Chris Kiriga, one of the co-owners and brewer at Therapy Brewing.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
There's a whole lot that we're going to get to because I have many questions that I'm sure we will tackle, and I'm sure the obligatory tangent or two may happen, as Steph warned you about before we started recording. But, of course, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. You listening to this right now, there are other places you can follow us on the internet besides where you found the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are at Beer Busters. On Facebook, we are Beer Busters Podcast. There's beerbusterspodcast.com/shop is where you find all the cool stuff. On YouTube, we are Beer Busters Podcast, and of course, there is patreon.com/beerbusters, where as little as $1 a month gets you access to cool behind-the-scenes goodies and all the extra stuff that we'll throw at you along the way. Videos, extra audio. If we ever get to do Beer Busters Podcast basement recordings again, you may get an invitation to that if it is feasible and safe to do so.
It is now the Beer Busters Podcast Basement and Tiki Bar.
And Tiki Bar, that's right. And what did we name the Tiki guy? Mark?
Mark.
Okay. I still don't remember naming it, but that sounds like something I would do.
Somehow,
You 100% did.
when you add an and something to any establishment, it just makes it sound so much cooler. Like the Beer Busters Podcast, Basement, and Tiki Bar.
I think I can debunk that because when I was in high school, we would always go to Shady Maple. Shady Maple, for anybody not from the immediate area, is a very
smorgasbord.
It's a smorgasbord of nothing but fine Amish cooking, and they're known for
Fine?
Hey,
Fine?
Hey, shush, shush.
Voluminous.
Voluminous. There we go.
If nothing else.
But it's just a lot of like good food, and there's breakfast foods, and everybody goes for breakfast. Like I went to dinner there once. I don't even know if they do lunch or anything else. But however, when we were there, we went for breakfast the one day, and I walked back to the table. Go figure, with a plate full of bacon.
Of course.
I know. And we came up with the idea that I was going to open a restaurant someday.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you know about this one.
Bacon Dan Baker's Bacon Emporium and House of Bacon.
Warehouse of Bacon.
Warehouse of Bacon.
But that and does not do it justice.
I think that's a good name.
Well, thank you.
My alternate suggestion was to make it a fine dining restaurant called Bacone.
I remember that. Yeah, and you were trying to get Justin on board with you for that.
I was. 3 minutes, by the way.
And we're already on a tangent.
3 minutes. I checked the phone.
We have a lot of problem naming beers, so next time I'm just going to reach out to you guys.
Oh yeah, no, we've legit given people sheets full of beer names that have not been used.
One of the complimentary services our podcast has been providing for many years.
We should start charging for this.
I like giving people ideas.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool.
I want to say I was ticking the talk a lot this weekend.
Were you?
Oh,
Okay.
Or whatever the proper verb is. Dana and I were brewing with Eric and Ron. We brewed a Maybach on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
TikToking a Maybach?
TikToking the Maybach.
I like
Perfect.
that.
All right.
So I'm trying
Is that a
to
potential beer
get
name?
content. What's that?
Is that a potential beer name?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
No,
TikTok the
we
Maybach.
did name it. I don't remember what we named it. We have a document with all of our beer names because when we come up with them, we're probably inebriated and we won't remember it later.
That's normally how
So
it
we
goes.
keep it shared.
Yeah.
But I also bought Ron. Oh, it's Frictiony Maybach.
Friction.
Long story.
Okay.
Well, kind of connected. So Ron collects all of the cans that we crush, and there's a local place near where we live that will take the cans and give you cash. So usually we can fill an entire huge trash can of cans and get maybe $15. But we put that then towards ingredients for our next brew. And now that we're brewing like 10, 15 gallons at a time, ingredients are getting more expensive.
Yeah.
But I bought him a can crusher for Christmas because he's always stepping on them with his foot. So I also TikToked crushing the cans, and I figured out how to do a time lapse. So it would go like really fast. I was very proud of myself for discovering all this.
Follow us on TikTok. There it is. You can get all this amazing content and more.
And more. Yeah, I saw that video. I like it.
I'm really trying.
I used to love using a can crusher. Pop always had one. Yeah. But we digress.
Anyway.
Of course.
You digress.
We digress. So yes, therapy brewing. I have many questions, and usually I start off with like, how long have you been around? So I know you guys have been around since 2019. My question is though, where did the name come from?
I'm trying.
So that is the number one most popular question that we have.
I had a feeling I wasn't the only one to
Sure. Right. So, gosh, the story that I go with most often is I went on a Vermont, like I wanted to go to Beer Mecca to find all those off the beaten path places that, we've heard about, we think about. I mean, shoot, in all honesty, a little bit later in the interview, I'll be drinking a Heady Topper because somebody brought me one this weekend. So
Perfect.
I wanted to go to the source.
Right.
And in Vermont, if you haven't been, there is virtually no cell service in 97% of the state, probably. So you get a lot of time to think by yourself. And if you have any children, I have 3. You have to name them. It's one of those things.
One of the things you have to do, yeah.
So if you've got an idea, you've got to name it as well. So there's a ton of names that you think of. And just like those beer names, a lot of them get thrown in the trash. So there was a list. And every time I'd get to cell service, I would text my next 4 or 5 ideas to a couple of the guys and my wife. And they would happily trash at least 4 or 5 of those ideas. But we kept doing it over and over and over. And one brewery name that never left was Therapy. So the beauty of it is I'm a former sports medicine guy. My wife's a physical therapist. My partner is a doctor.
Okay.
And we used to say that the other guy could use some therapy. And so it was something that felt very comfortable for us. And when you come visit us, and Steph, you came on a pretty damn nice day, if I remember right.
Oh, it rained. Well, the first time I was there, it was sunny, but it was freezing cold. The next time I was there, it was raining like crazy.
So first time sunshine, we've got a view. We've got a really nice spot. Way out in the country, we are 5 miles away from the highway. You come up a dirt driveway to get to us. You sit out in the grass underneath the tree. Our logo, which has been out, it's around the place. You'll see it. That tree's there. Our swing is there. And it's a therapeutic place to just sit and be around nature and other people. Our cell phone service sucks. We don't have a radio outside. We barely put the music on inside. So you're forced to have conversations and kind of go back to the roots of what we used to do when we got together, kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that on the website that it's a conversational thing. Like I hate when I'm out with friends and everybody's looking at their phone. It drives me nuts. And maybe that's just the elder millennial in me wanting to get back to the roots a little bit and just getting fed up with like all the social media and everything. But if you're with a group of people, you should be with the group of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it is so therapeutic to be there. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Everywhere you look, surrounded, there's trees. You can barely see the road, especially if you're there when the leaves are on the trees, and the beautiful huge tree with the tire swing, which has become so iconic for your brand and the branding. And the first time we were ever there, we put a blanket out under that tree because of course I'm always looking for the perfect place to take beer pictures, but it's just so cool. And there's so much space for, even if the parking lot is packed, there's going to be somewhere for you to find a spot to sit and drink beer, whether it's on the deck or getting some, folding chairs out of the back of the car or putting a blanket down on the grass. There's just so much space there. And I was doing a little research before this, and you guys are on a 90-acre plot of land. Is that correct?
No, 200-acre plot.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My co-owner partner, he originally bought the entire property because he wanted the next door property to build a house, and it wasn't available. But these guys said, "Hey, how about you buy ours?" So he bought it. He's building a house right now. He hasn't moved in yet. It's coming here soon. But it's a very nice place for us to spread out. We're up in north central Pennsylvania. There's a big group of hunters. I'm one of them. We tend to be up there a lot. Whether we're open or closed, it doesn't matter. We're always there.
So for people that might not be familiar with where this part of Pennsylvania is, many of our listeners, of course, have been to New Trail, or at least familiar with New Trail, because that crew's been on our show a few times. And Mike is actually the person that introduced me to therapy. One of the times that we head up there to catch up with Mike and have some beers, I said, while we're up here, what else should we do? And he's like, if there's one other brewery you got to check out, it's Therapy. And I had never heard of you guys before them. And if Mike tells you to go to a place, you go to a place. That's how it is. And so it was about I guess it's about a 25-minute drive, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right.
From New Trail to Therapy. And, mostly you're along the highway, and then all of a sudden you get off the highway. And luckily, Mike, gave us very specific directions, and he was like, the GPS might not get you there exactly, but you're looking for this and you will be going the right place to reassure us. And because at the time you guys didn't have the sign at the bottom of the drive, or you had a sign, but it was really small or something. And now you have that beautiful sign. So it's harder to drive by. But I think the first time we did drive by and had to do a U-turn and come back. But
our first sign were the letters TB on a board the size of a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And the biggest bar argument we had were, gosh, we drove past 3 times. And the people would say, you need a bigger sign. And the people sitting at the bar would say, no.
Yeah.
You don't. We want to keep it quiet. We don't want more people to show up. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, from a lot of people, we get a ton of the New Trail traffic. They either come see us first or go see them. And we are always throwing people back. Mike's a great guy down there. I walk to New Trail from my house. I mean, it's a mile away, not even.
Wow.
Nice.
And one of their owners, he comes to us. So we have a very good relationship. But from here to there, gosh, you're on the major highway, you get off, and 3 turns later, you're at us. So it's really not hard.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth it. And, especially to go to New Trail, it's like such a different environment. It's so industrial and, and then you go to Therapy. And even if it's just as busy, there's just this like relaxed vibe about it, just because everyone's in the middle of nowhere. And it almost reminds me back, is Omegang even open anymore up in Cooperstown?
Ooh.
Are they open? But I just remember years, like I always loved to go up there in the fall because you were just surrounded by trees that were like beautiful colors, and the place was always packed, but it never bothered you because you're drinking great beer and you have this amazing atmosphere. And that's kind of, so going back to the land, the brewery is actually in the wagon barn, what used to be the wagon barn, correct?
Right. Our old wagon shed. And
there was a farmhouse there, but you guys,
that's our parking lot now.
Right.
Yeah. We burned it to the ground. Kind of a fun little thing. One of the guys that was part of the project at the very beginning was a firefighter and set up a educational burn. So they would light it on fire and put it out, and light it on fire again and put it out. 20 something times I think they did that day.
Wow.
And we all sat up on the hill drinking beer and eating subs and having fun, watch it burn. So
yeah, that's quite a show, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a good time.
That's pretty cool.
So what was the wagon barn? What kind of shape was it in? And what was the renovation process like?
I'll have to put some pictures up on our site so you guys can see it. But it was original structure. So I'd have to say 125-year-old drafty, see through the wall kind of place, chicken coop in it, corn cribs. So for holding feed for cattle and whatnot upstairs, a whole bunch of stuff. And we used as much of that building as we could as it is right now. So when you came in, our bar top is the corn cribbing that held the corn up for 100 years.
Wow. Oh,
we just epoxied over the top of that. Our stand-up bar is the incredibly old workbench that had been upstairs. It's a 14-foot long hunk of oak that's got screws in it and drill holes and hammer marks, and it's got a lot of character to it. And everything in that building we kept all that same character that we could. Everything we could keep uncovered, we did, including initials that kids carved in there. Over 100 years ago.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really cool. And you mentioned it's 200 acres of property. And obviously, the brewery's there, and the house is coming, and the parking lot. But that leaves like about how much just general open space is there that people could just kind of wander in?
Well, that's the thing. You can't have people wander for 200 acres.
I kind of figured that. Yeah.
There's a little liability on that one.
Yeah.
So for the general part of the brewery, from the road, you can see the road if you look hard from the brewery, and you can see the brewery hard if you look from the road.
Right.
We've got plenty of space for everybody to go play. We're working on. I am lightly working on a trail project so that we have some space where people can walk around. We have a lot of pollinator fields.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in the fall, our monarch population is just immense. It's absolutely amazing. So we're going to have a little bit of a loop that people can actually take their beer and go wander a little bit, or send the kids around for a couple of laps to burn off some energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be a fun thing. So we just did, Steph, when's the last time you were up there? Is it in the spring or?
Just this past fall, we were up there, like October, November,
Right.
early November, I think was the last time we were up.
Yeah. So you saw the parking expansion between the first time and the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to let all that. We had our major expansion was adding more parking. We didn't add to the building. We didn't add to our system, but we added to our parking to make things a lot easier. So this past summer was all about getting that to green up and grow in, so we had better seating spots for this coming spring season.
It was Saturday, October 23rd.
Fact checking is happening.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know if it was the 23rd or 24th. Oh my gosh.
Glad we figured that one out.
Well, I just remember it was before the Moonlit release,
Which is at New Trail.
Yeah, right. I was like, do I really drive back up there just a few more weeks later? And I resisted the urge to do so.
And I can walk to the Moonlit, and I didn't even go over. Now, my partner was over there, and I said, just grab me a 4-pack of the regular stuff, which it's absolutely fantastic.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I had a friend that was up in that area for work, so I split the cost of some 4-packs with him. So I did get some of the variants this year, but we were there for Flannel Weekend. That was the weekend we were up there, at New Trail. Everybody, I think everybody's always wearing flannel up there though, and
it's like the state color, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Sounds about right.
Yeah. and they do make a fantastic beer called Flannel Weather, so it's good. They do a lot of events. So we don't do as much as they do it. And our only comparison is location, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. They're about ready to unleash their new brew system, which is a 60-barrel beast.
Wow.
We are 3 barrels. And our expansion has been our parking lot, not our brew system.
I would argue that's a very important expansion.
That's a very
though.
good.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
expand.
I more than doubled. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of parking I have.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, I might also be biased having lived in a city a big city for 15 years. Like, it's kind of hard to find a parking space, and if you have a parking lot, I'm more likely to go to your brewery or business in general.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Oh, speaking of, I wanted to mention I'm drinking the Wissahick and Kolsch.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a fabulous Philly area brewery that does have a very nice parking lot, I wanted to point out, but also a very dog-friendly place. But
Nice.
We were in that area a few weeks ago, and this Kolsch is nice. Is anyone else drinking anything right now? Nobody even looks like they have a beer.
No, yeah.
You have...
Dan kindly shared a couple cans of Love City Lager that he had on hand, so that's what we're currently drinking. Chris, what do you have?
I'm warming up with a hazy little thing, I'll be honest.
A hazy little thing?
Warming up with the hazy one. Interesting.
Okay.
Well, I got a heady topper coming here in a little bit.
You did mention that.
So,
Well, it's interesting, Chris. I'm surprised to hear you at home drinking so many hazies, but when you look at the tap list at Therapy, it's not a typical craft brewery's tap list right now, which is probably why I love your location so much, because I'm not a hazy IPA fan, but you often have, first of all, quite a selection of beer styles, but also beer styles that aren't common on a lot of tap lists. Was that intentional?
Yes, that's a very fair thing. We get, so number one question is, what we talked earlier there.
About
hazy
the name?
IPAs.
No, the name of the place, Therapy. Right.
Therapy.
The number one question is,
why
where did you come up with Therapy Brewing? The second question is,
why don't you make a hazy IPA?
What is your hazy IPA? Like, what? How many IPAs do you have?
Right.
And it's always a chuckle because the stock answer is really simple. we brew an easy drinker. So we have a lot of, it's a big area. Miller, Coors, and Bud, they're still the big dogs, and they will be for as long as we are around. We have something for that guy that comes in, and it's not, I'm not trying to make a clone. Our tap rotation is constant. Every other couple of weeks, we've got a brand new beer on, and the style may be similar, but it's never the same thing. We don't have a flagship. We always have an IPA. And if it's not an IPA, at least we have a hoppy pale ale. And then we play with everything else in between. I tend to drink by the seasons. I'm not doing it right now. I'm drinking my hazy IPA. But the two beers I have on tap here are a dark amber lager and our winter warmer, both from the brewery.
Ooh.
And in the summertime, I'll have probably our cream ale if I brew another one, and I have no idea, probably another IPA. Cool. But we rotate things very frequently. We drink by the seasons, and we brew what we want to drink. And there's a lot of planning involved with that, because, I mean, you guys just homebrewed their stuff the other day, and you're going to drink it in 2 weeks, probably. So at any brewery, I don't care how big or small you are, you're planning way far out. And I'm so small, I'm brewing Thursday, and I'm not sure if I'm brewing an easy drinker, which would be a Kolsch, because I've got everything I need for that, or I'm brewing a West Coast IPA. And I haven't quite decided which way.
Right.
And maybe you won't decide till you're milling the grains.
I better decide before I'm milling the grains.
You might have to make some adjustments.
This is what I have to do tomorrow. I have to figure it out. But I will say, like, I'm looking at a West Coast IPA. I'm not brewing a hazy. I can walk to New Trail. Right. They make some of the best hazies around. Why try to fight it? Like, we have a 8% IPA on right now called Woolly Bear that is absolutely fantastic, but it falls more in line with the Sip of Sunshine IPA instead of the hazy Juice Bomb. And that's okay. And the West Coast that is planned to brew either this week or next week is not going to be, I'm going to say this tongue in cheek, but it's not going to be modern. It's going to be old school. I want my tongue to get ripped off a little bit. And people are forgetting that. And that's where a lot of the styles that we have on tap are styles that people are forgetting a little bit. Not necessarily that I've brewed year after year after year. Shoot, we're going on 3 years old. And even with homebrewing experience, I haven't brewed every damn style. I'd love to, but I haven't. But we just kicked our tap of ESB.
Oh, nice.
So how many places have an ESB?
Yeah, when you were saying it's styles you don't really see represented, or the ones that people might have forgotten about, that was the first one that came to mind. I saw that you had the ESB.
Yeah, it's the second time we brewed it. We're probably gonna brew another batch here and age it for the summertime, just because the longer it sits, the better it gets. But that's one. Part of that reason why we don't see some of those older styles is also education. A lot of our current beer buyers don't know what an ESB is. I purposely do not write out what the letters ESB mean on our menu, because it's going to turn off a lot of beer drinkers, because they don't know what that term means.
Yeah.
So if I put the word bitter, I just turned off half of my crowd.
Yeah, and part of the other half will think bitter means hoppiness and bitterness from that, and they'll assume it's like an IPA of sorts. Right.
So there's an education that is involved with a lot of the styles that we do, or try to debunk some of those myths. Yeah. I don't like lagers. I don't like ales. Gosh, we hear that all the time.
I don't like ales? What?
Wow.
Like, you don't like beer?
I don't like ales or lagers. What can you give me?
To me? Right.
Here's a water.
I mean, do you hard seltzer?
True.
Right. But, yeah, we don't get a whole lot of seltzer questions.
Yeah. Not in that game yet.
No.
Well, it also fits with the vibe of the brewery, because it's not the kind of place that you're going to go and just have a beer and leave, or pick up some beer to go and leave. It's the kind of place where you plan to go there, and unless, I don't know, maybe the locals will just pop in for beer, but it's usually, I would think, plan to go there and spend some time there. And, there's opportunity for conversation and for education and to try some beer styles that maybe you wouldn't have tried before, or like we do, and just we're like, pour them all. We want them all.
Yeah.
But you know, so I think having a tap list like that, and brewing those easy drinkers, as you keep referring them to, is really smart because it fits with the vibe. And I think with the intention that the brewery has, that you should go and spend time there. You know, therapy takes some time. You're not in and out. You got to get somewhere.
It's a place that's got an experience and serves beer. Mm-hmm. It's not like we're going to blow the socks off your mind here and go like, oh my gosh, I had so much fun there. But there are some people that has actually happened to. We had a lady who, her husband was the beer drinker, craft beer drinker. She didn't touch a drop. And they moved out of the area about a year ago. And he came back to visit for something or the other. And the number one thing that his wife, the non-beer drinker, misses is therapy brewing.
Oh, wow.
Because she'd like to come just sit there and have those conversations with her friends while they were all having a good time. And that's really special.
Yeah, that is.
It is.
That's really cool.
Now, I'm curious about the water. Do you guys have well water there?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have good water when you can have well water.
Well, I was wondering, like, does that also affect the styles you choose to brew, or do you have to serious about water chemistry perhaps with everything? These
are really good questions. No one asks these things. So I love nerding out about all these small details. So our well is a huge dictator on what we are able to do. We've had it sent off to the lab a couple times, and the beauty is it's very, very neutral. So if I want to build upon it for a certain profile, I can. So the ESB, I played a little bit. There's that Burton-on-Trent profile that I don't want all of it, but I want a little bit of it. We've done some German lagers, and I do play with the acid a little bit there. And I can take basically zero water and turn it into whatever I want. The bigger aspect of it is the well's not that big. So right now we've got a couple lagers in process and on tap, but come the summertime, I can't brew lagers. I don't have enough water to keep my system running. So if we have a drought situation, I can make an ale because I don't chill it as cold as a lager.
Right.
And I've since upgraded our heat exchanger to make that a little bit easier. But if you don't have water, that doesn't really work to make a beer. So I have to really pick and choose when I brew based on the weather, which sounds odd.
Well, no, think of the history of brewing and why we have certain beer styles that we drink certain times of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always think it's fascinating how those sorts of like the water chemistry of the groundwater and the seasonal changes and like your physical location and how that has given rise to like every beer style comes from a story like that. Like we made this beer this way because the water was this, or because we had to brew it in this season or that season. So taking away all the the fancy modern bells and whistles that brewers can play with nowadays and kind of going back to that and letting nature dictate that schedule, I think it's a really cool thing and fits with the vibe of everything else of the place.
But so how okay, this is going to be a multifold question. One, how far ahead do you have to look at the weather to figure out what you're going to brew? Like, obviously, it's relatively unpredictable. Same week, you might have a better idea. But, yeah, long-term forecasts are there. But also, do you worry about something like climate change affecting your ability to brew? Because if you are looking at drought situations, that is more and more of a possibility as time goes on.
I would say I don't look at the forecast to brew. We figured out the first summer that a lager in July, we started to have some issues with the heat exchanger, and we figured out real quick it was the well. So we put the kibosh on that quick. So I don't do any lagers June, July, or August. Easy. We do have consistently our Oktoberfest served in September, but I brew the sucker, appropriately back in the springtime. I've got tons of freaking water in the springtime, which is good. So I can bank that easy. So that's probably the biggest thing. If we get a heavy rainstorm, generally I like to wait a day so that all the water can settle, because my well does get a little cloudy for a day, but it's just run the faucet for a little while and it clears itself right out. But it's an old thing. And that's one of, I guess it's my physical limiter for expansion. I don't have enough water to support a larger brew system.
Makes sense. I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah,
that's a good point.
You know, and people say, well, we are 3 barrels. If anybody, we didn't go over that. We're a 3-barrel system there. I can't be a 7-barrel system. I don't have enough water.
Yeah.
And if I want to have the well that I want for a commercial operation, we're talking a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
And I don't have $100,000 sitting around to build a commercial quality well.
Yeah.
So I'd rather let's just stay small and run the same system.
Yeah.
Off-site production facility down the road somewhere. One day.
Nah, I doubt it.
No, not gonna happen.
You guys have an electric brew house, which is unique. I'm curious what motivated you guys to make that decision, and what unique brewing challenges do you face having an electric system?
So the threat of death makes a lot of just choices for you. When you've got propane and lack of oxygen, there's a balance between a system that can work and can't. And originally, we built the thing around a propane system that we had gotten, and we tried incredibly unsuccessfully to brew our first batch of beer with the doors wide open and the fans on full blast, and never, ever, ever got to a boil, and realized real quick that we don't have enough gas supply, air supply, and space to support this method of brewing. I'm a propane brewer at home. I had no idea how to run. My homebrew system is run on gravity and propane.
Yeah.
I don't have a pump. I didn't know how to use a pump. Electric, like Herm systems and rims and all that stuff, I have no idea. So it was a lot of learning on this one, but we figured out real quick. We have a buddy who happens to teach electric at one of our local colleges, who was very, very happy to hold our hands, and we created a system that is super redundant on safety features, so that if we have any issues at all, a little tiny 75-cent fuse is the first thing to go instead of one of us, which is wonderful. So we are a full electric brew system. We have what are they? We have 20,000 watts in there. We have a lot of watts going through our boil kettle. But that's attainable on a smaller system. The 3-barrel, that works. It becomes very cost prohibitive to do that on a larger system, like Neutral's going steam. Most places over 7-barrel are steam for a reason. It's much more efficient. We did some quick numbers to run a batch of beer. At least when we opened, the price for the electric, I'm running like $11 for my electric.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot, I could do a homebrew batch with propane for a lot more than $11.
Yeah.
You know, so we have a very efficient brew system. We don't use the power all the time. We use, I get to dial it way back. We've got 4 elements. I turn it down to 1 or 2 sometimes. So we like to have a very low impact on the energy that we're using. The water obviously comes from the well. Everything all of our drainage gets put back into the well eventually, and all the grains are going to the pigs up the street. And I have one of them in my freezer right now, so it's going over pretty well. Yeah, circle's complete.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the brew system, and it's 3 barrels. Relatively small in the scheme of things. But we did talk a lot about lagers and like brewing ahead. So how much fermentation capacity do you have? How much can you kind of just like brew ahead and then like set?
We run 3 fermenters and a bright tank.
Mm-hmm.
So if my well, this is my limiter, can brew once a week, I can pretty much keep myself a month ahead on everything. If I run on a 2-3 week brewing schedule,
mm-hmm.
and I always rotate back and forth which beer goes to the bright tank, but I try not to push anything too fast. I don't mind taking an IPA that's supposed to be light and bright and turning it out in 10 days if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did that one time. I like them to sit a little bit longer. So I usually say 3 to 6 weeks is my turnaround time for any given beer.
And how many beers do you have on tap at any given time?
We have all of 7
Okay.
at our max capacity.
Okay. I was just the ratio of like the brewing system, the fermentation space, and the taps,
Right.
and like how you do that math and keep up with everything. I know we've talked to people that are like, I'm brewing 2 times a day, 3 days a week just to fill these fermenters so I can have all this beer, ready to go down the road. And
There's another guy down the street. He's got a 7-barrel system, and he's got 16 taps.
Yeah.
And I go, how do you keep up with it?
Right.
Yeah.
And I would like to, I'm sure this is pretty common thought we all have. When we go to some place, the first thing we look for is what do they have that's new?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we've been there 1 time or 20 times, what do they have that's new? And I said our tap list rotates all the time. So the next time Steph comes or any of you come, there'll probably be nothing on there that was there the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will there be an easy drinker and a hoppy beer and something in between? Hell yeah. But that's how we do it. I want to see beer be fresh when it's appropriate and aged when it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a ton of storage capacity. I tried storing stuff in the barn one summer, and it was a great idea, but it didn't work out very well. It got kind of hot that summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ourselves like to see a turnover on the beers just because we don't want to get bored with it either.
Yeah, and a lot of places, and having a relatively small system, I think, allows you to be nimble enough to do that, to constantly like have your tap list pretty much rotate out, every week or 2 or every couple of weeks, and that is really a plus for the avid craft beer drinkers who do. I mean, we talk about how we used to be like that, but I think as we get older, we do kind of want to go back. Like I always want to be able to get a Love City lager, but it is really cool and a very competitive edge to like be able to say, hey, every time you come here, there's going to be something you haven't had before. And I think in the craft beer world, that's a very, very big advantage to have.
Yeah, our summertime turnover is certainly more with more traffic through the door.
Yeah.
We were almost a new brew every week on tap.
Yeah.
The first summer, these past 2, it's been a little weird. So
well, everything's been
we'll see.
True.
Yeah, we'll see what this summer is going to be like.
Yeah.
Right now, wintertime, like things are pretty chill. That's where those beers that age really well, the ESBs, the amber lagers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got a coffee stout. That sucker will last for a long time and be delicious. I'll be upset when it's gone.
One style you haven't mentioned in this conversation, and considering the location, I think you should have it, is a saison. Do you do a lot of saisons?
We have a wooden silo saison on right now.
Okay.
We actually have a wooden silo
nice.
on site.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the saison, this has been a recipe that my partner, Quinn, he homebrewed it for years and years and just loved it. And this is going to sound bad, I hate Belgian beers.
Okay.
And it's a world that I wish I did like because it's so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it has so much history and variance through it. I can appreciate them. I can taste them and I can tell you what I like and what I dislike, and I can brew them. But it's not the one that I go for all the time. Yes, we have it on tap right now. It's the most complex beer that we have. I like to talk about it a lot. I just don't like to drink it all the time.
I don't know that I would categorize most Belgian beers as easy drinking though either.
Yeah.
Correct. That yeast profile is almost, for me, it's actually, I say it's like a learned taste, or like that red wine drinker it just became a red wine drinker. Mm-hmm. They're not used to it. There's not a sweetness or this comfortable carameliness. There's this weird thing, and it's the yeast, and they don't understand what yeast can do to a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's there's another part of that education. If I've got a guy who's a Miller Bud drinker, I have to educate him on Belgian yeast. Oh, we both better sit down.
Yeah, there should be a couple steps in
while.
between there. Yeah, that's where you have the the easy drinking pale ales and Kolsch's and whatnot.
Well, and not just the yeast, but even what I think Belgian yeast more than any others, what the temperature can do to it. Just think about a saison. I mean, whether you're fermenting it at like normal fermentation temperatures or as high as 80, 90 degrees to just, stress the yeast and get something different out of it. Like there's so much complexity to just the yeast part of those recipes. And I mean, they're meant to be appreciated, but it's not like drinking a British ale or a lager or Kolsch or cream ale, things that like they're really good and you appreciate them, but you can just drink them and just enjoy. It's almost like a conversation, and a lot more thought has to go into enjoying Belgian beers, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Sometimes we just want to drink beer and
And
have
not think about it.
conversation
And they-
not
they-
have
Yeah.
the conversation about the beer.
Styles of beer that are difficult to drink and not talk about. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
But I just
so
feel it's
true.
like I would love you just like I haven't been, but seeing the pictures and talking about the place, I just imagine sitting there and drinking like a nice, very complex saison, and looking out over the view and everything. I think that would be for me.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
perfect. I love saisons.
Yeah, and we've got the windmill that's up there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a 100-year-old windmill. It used to pump the water. The last guy that was born in the house, he told me in the summertime when it would be drought, he'd have to go up there and spin the windmill by hand to get well water to fill up the cistern.
Oh wow!
So they had water at the house.
Oh
I think
God! Imagine if you had to do that on your brew days.
I know. I think I'm the last guy to actually go up there and spin the thing by hand. But we've got it's all modern now, so we don't have to do any of that stuff.
Wow.
But we have
cool.
but we named a beer after it. We have a windmill wit,
Nice.
and that's one that boy, that's a good beer. I do like that. I know it's still in that Belgian world, but the way that thing turned out is just delicious. And we don't brew it all the time. I mean, shoot, hell, we're going to be 3 years old, so we haven't brewed anything all the time. But that one's got just a nice, clean that fits the atmosphere. We had a guy who he writes for a certain newspaper publication that you've seen at various places in the Mid-Atlantic area, and he got that beer and sampled a whole bunch of stuff. And then all he wanted to do was just get a full pour of it and sit and stare at the trees for a little while. And that also meant a lot to me too. Like, here's a guy that could just take off. He's tried so many different things, and all he wants to do is just sit and drink this particular beer and just stare at a tree for a while, which good for him. Like,
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to just pump your own brakes and do that for yourself.
Sounds like a nice afternoon to me.
Yeah.
I think we all need to do that more often.
Yeah, definitely.
So you guys don't package your beers at all, and I'm thinking your water limit is probably one of the main contributing factors to that. You do fill growlers to go, which is very unusual that only growlers, no crowlers or cans. It kind of makes you the minority in breweries. Is there any thought to perhaps for an anniversary beer doing a few bottles release, or are you just focusing on on-site consumption?
The biggest thing we talked about, that water issue. If we're running, like, let's say July, we don't have a ton of water, so we have enough to brew once a week. And for me, like on a 3-barrel system, the way I keg it out, I get 7 kegs. So they're 50-liter kegs, so the math makes more sense. Mm-hmm. I put 7 kegs in, and if I empty 8 kegs on a weekend, that math is not the right direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't package anything up. And in fact, we put some growler limits on some beers. When we get to our last keg, we won't fill a growler from it, because we'd rather have the people that spent the time to drive there the ability to drink it and enjoy it while they are there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not normal in today's world, where I want everything to be able to go at my fingertips yesterday, 10% off. So I got it. We're bucking the system a little bit on that one. If we had more water, would we do more packaging? Having interned at another brewery, I watched a mobile canner come in, and the demands for how much beer you need and how much you lose down the drain hurts me. To watch that happen. If you have the ability to help can, and this could be for anybody that's listening, there's brewers that are always looking for volunteers to help on canning day. If you have the ability to do it, you get to see the amount of loss that happens.
Yeah. It's just I've never really considered that there was a significant amount of waste in the process.
Sure. Like I think like the amount of trogs dumps at the end of the day is probably what I make in a day.
Yeah.
But it's all based on scale.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see anything go. Would we do anything in bottles? Yeah, actually we did do something in bottles over the holidays. We had a barrel. There's a nice little distillery in Lancaster called Thistle Finch.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. They make a unbelievable straight rye whiskey. So this is like the nice caramelly brown and delicious. And I was a fan of it, and I reached out to them just to see if I could possibly get one barrel from them, and we did. And we put in a real nice concentrated Baltic porter and let it sit there for 8 months over the spring and summer, and bottled ourselves in a nice 11% barrel aged, delicious. You didn't have to cellar it. Like, I'm having a hard time not drinking my own stash.
Yeah.
And we'll do that again. But I learned bottling there. Boy, it sucked the way that I did it. So much so, like, I'm redoing the entire process so that I don't have loss. I hate losses and lack of efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not good for, well, I mean, the environment, what you do, the time that you put into it. You hate to see it go down the drain. I want to brew beer that tastes good, so people don't bring me back half cups full of beer.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
No, I don't want to dump it. I want you to drink it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Could I see us doing other things from a packaging standpoint? Potentially. Contract brewing, there's tons of places available. Previous place we mentioned does a little bit of it, and maybe at some point we'll find a recipe that we say, yeah, like let's do this, and that way we can have some cans to go. The crowlers, one, if you could find a place to buy them from, there's that. And then where the hell am I going to store them? My place is small.
Anyway.
All right, put a pallet of crowlers in your kitchen. That's what it would be like putting them in my brewery. I don't know where they would go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just imagine, like, when Wayne brought up saisons, I could picture like a fancy anniversary beer, like cork and cage bottle, like limit run of like 50 bottles at the brewery, on-site consumption only, like, have a few beers on tap, then purchase one of those special bottles and enjoy it there. I feel like it would fit like the vibe and the atmosphere. But I'm sure people would appreciate cans too.
Sure. I don't disagree with that. We talked about cork and cage for this beer, and I trumped in with, no, we're doing regular caps, and I'll shrink wrap them because it's less effort. I won't say it's prettier at all, because cork and cage is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to cork and cage, I'm going to bottle condition probably.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not do that for this beer in particular. We recently had another brewery nearby did a cork and cage for their first one, and it was nice, but we couldn't get the damn cork out. So there's a learning curve on some of this too, and when you do it over and over and over, well, it's easy. But if you don't do it, I don't know. I can only learn so much at a time.
Yeah.
I thought, let's just keep things simple the first time, and then we can always fancy it up after there. As long as we all agree that wax tops, like, we're not doing that.
That's fair.
Please.
I'm learning that everybody's against these now.
They look cool, but that's about it.
That's it.
You cannot ever
in
your life
thank you.
combine a cork and a cap.
Absolutely not. I was going to say that.
That is verboten. Not allowed.
Verboten.
Because there's nothing worse than uncapping a beer and realizing there's a cork and you don't have a corkscrew. It's happened way too many times.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, John Stemler.
Yes.
So we mentioned the land a lot. And one thing I like on your website is you mentioned that, like, you don't serve meals, but you encourage people to bring, like, picnics and to sit outside while they're drinking your beer and on your land and have that stuff. And of course you want people to clean up. Do you think you would ever do like any kind of small snack selection or like a food truck that could come in or anything like that, or do you just want people to bring their own stuff food wise?
So the first month we were open, we did our grand opening thing. We had a food truck there, and they were absolutely fantastic. We loved them. And then we didn't schedule one for a little while. Called a couple up, had them fill in some dates on their schedule, and each one had an issue with it. Like, the one guy dumped grease all over the driveway.
Oh.
Or the other guy backed into my building and folded my brand new gutter in half.
Fantastic.
And then another guy, like, there's a laundry list of things. So what I found was, it's a business too. So does having them there help me or hurt me? And when we go back a little while ago, when my parking lot was small, a food truck and its space is going to take up two or three spaces, especially if it's a trailer. Mm-hmm. Well, if I've only got 20 spaces, now those three people have nowhere to go. So I'd rather have the people there. And I encourage you, like, bring it. We don't have a ton of, we're not downtown. Right. So you need to really plan ahead when you come to visit us. And in the first 3 months, we really trained everybody. Bring your stuff. Like, grab a pizza on your way. Grab subs. Some of the charcuterie boards that people make are unbelievable.
Oh, cool.
I've had pretty much, 50 different kinds of buffalo chicken dip in a very short period of time.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's some really cool stuff that people bring. And that's a very nice aspect. Last year, we didn't schedule anything because the model that we did was 100% outside. So we'll touch on it a little bit. During COVID, you had to have a meal with your food. So this works out pretty well. All right. So we do not have a kitchen. We do not have a microwave, and we could not serve a bowl of pretzels as a meal. They were happy to define that for us. Mm-hmm. So instead of charging people $2 for a piece of bologna and cheese, we said, just go tailgate, because we had licensed area and then our parking lot was not. So people could go out by the tree and sit underneath the tree and enjoy their beer and have the pizza that they brought from home. And it was all to go. And that was by definition just fine. We had PLCB there, checked everything out. We got the green light.
Wow.
And everything was good. So that our model that we created the first year worked the second year. Mm-hmm. And as we come into this next summer, I actually have 5 trucks scheduled to come. So we're just going to do one a month, just so we can pepper in a little bit for those people that may come. And we'll announce it well in advance so people know, like, this guy's coming this day. And we're mostly an outdoor place. Our seating area inside is very tight. The building, like our max, we say 40 people. So that I can still fit inside there. So it's not very large at all. So we are very much like the yard, the deck, and the hillside. So we'll let those people know that, like, there's food going to be there. You know, you can bring some if you want. It's fine. I'm not going to force everybody.
Plus, if you do one a month, that kind of gives you the ability to adapt and make any necessary changes. Like, say, if somebody does back into a gutter, you can make sure to set them up, further away from the gutter instead of having a different truck come the next day,
Yeah, part of that parking lot expansion was to create a beautiful little spot where the food truck can go, and the picnic table is already set up, and it only kills 2 spots, which is just fantastic. And it's easy to get to for everybody that's going to be at the brewery, and still be scenic for even the guy that's in the food truck. So he gets to stare at the tree the whole time, which honestly is not that bad.
Not a bad deal at all. Yeah. No. So we inevitably got to the subject of COVID, which was going to happen sooner or later. And I was curious to ask, as we do with every brewery we've interviewed for the last couple of years, how COVID affected your business plan, what you had to change, especially being focused on like on-site consumption and being a destination brewery. Obviously, being in that space, you were hit harder by restrictions. So aside from like moving to that outdoor model, what other sort of changes did the pandemic make you have to go through with the business plan and operation?
Probably. Hold on, pause a second here.
Yeah.
There we go. Hold on, my delivery is coming.
Oh, there it is. Heady Topper has arrived.
Sorry, my Heady Toppers here. To turn the brewery into a to-go brewery was easy for growlers. When the lockdown happened and we were in phase red, we were still manufacturers, so we could technically be open, but no one could technically come visit us.
Right.
There's a little gray area there.
Right.
So like, say Yellow, people could go do stuff. So we were encouraging people, like, come get your growlers filled up. And we had a very easy, no seats, no tables, no nothing. It was like kind of a one guy in and a one guy out sort of mentality. And that was fine. Once we got over that and people started to come outside a little bit more, we had a very nice system where it was one door in, one door out. And we encouraged people to bring their coffee cups, their travel mugs. we went to plastic cups so that we didn't have to worry about glass breakage in the parking lot or in the hill. It's a gravel driveway, and we don't want people sitting on broken glass, which was great. And I just, gosh, the supply and demand is crazy. I was buying plastic cups, and the price just kept going up and up and up and up.
Everyone else was buying plastic cups as well.
Yeah. And adult slushies became a thing, and they all go in the same plastic cups. And I just bought a case of cups today at twice the price from a year ago.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, this, I hate to say, like, hey, all you guys listening, your beer prices are going to go up, but my grains, my last order, were $500 more than 1 year ago.
Jeez.
Because of shipping and availability. So I hate to say prices have to rise, but they're going to go all the way across the board.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a slow little trickle. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So we changed over to a lot of plastic, a lot of travel cups. Our second anniversary item, I don't have one handy, is an insulated travel mug.
And you guys had the
We had the silly pints, the little tiny guys. Yeah,
there was ones.
Yeah, there's a little picture that came out earlier, and they're 8 ounces, but it matches.
Mine's downstairs.
People bitch about how small those are, but I said
it's perfect.
Have you seen the size of our brewery?
Fair.
We have 32 ounce growlers. We don't have 64 ounce growlers. It matches the size of our brewery. So we adapted by changing over how we did it, and just we talked about most of the people are outside, so they were happy being outside. They just had to, as winter came, they just had to dress warmer. And we had some folks that brought their little fire pits, and as long as they talked to us about it ahead of time and it wasn't too windy, we would say, all right, like, go ahead and light one up, not next to your car. and if you're going to cook any food, you have to give us some. It's pretty simple. And the kids brought sleds.
Oh, cool.
And the people dressed like they were going ice fishing, and we had an absolute blast.
That's cool.
So I'd love to say, like, I'm going to be a complete minority. Did COVID hurt me? I don't know. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because people got to do the same thing in a spot where it was open and it was outside, and they could still have those conversations with the space that they needed in the environment that when you're there, that's what you come there for. Whether it's 14 degrees or 74 degrees, it doesn't matter. You come there for the peace and the quiet and to have a beer.
Honestly, it's kind of refreshing to hear you say that there was a kind of positive spin that could be put on it all, because I'm not even, having a brewery, but just being part of society for the past 2 years has been nothing but feeling like you're beaten down to an extent. So to hear some glimmer of hope, or that there was some positive way to get even a tiny bit of enjoyment out of the situation and still come together sort of as a community, that feels good to hear. That feels really good to hear.
Absolutely.
It was a safe place to go and socialize again, because we were that may have been like the first brewery we went to during the height of the pandemic, when, like, you're not, you mask everywhere, don't touch anything, and don't go indoors, when it felt the least safe to go somewhere. It was so refreshing to feel safe going to a brewery. And I was in 500 layers and coats and freezing outside under the tree, but I was like, I'm drinking beer at a brewery, guys. Like, it was like, you don't even understand how amazing that felt. So it doesn't surprise me to hear that all the fun, and because people just wanted to socialize, they wanted to go to a freaking brewery and not just drink at home anymore. And your brewery offered that, and who knew when you were making your business plan that would be the case? But
right,
it was perfect.
Right. And it gave, as a new brewer, I mean, we didn't get to have a first anniversary because we were completely shut down, which kind of stunk. But I got the ability to reach out to other breweries that have been in the business for a while. So another one that's not too far away, Sealands Grove Brewing. They've been around for quite some time. And I was able to talk to them about, how are you doing what you're doing? How are you getting by? What are your thoughts? You're not much bigger, but you've been around for a while. And we would have normal people conversations. They weren't like, oh, well, gosh, no, we're veterans, we can't talk to the rookies. And then there were also, and there's probably some stat someone's figured out, how many breweries opened during the pandemic.
Right.
Surprising amount.
Yeah.
A ton of them.
Yeah.
And there was one, the Juniata Brewing Company. I reached out to them because they had some weird model where they were filling up pretty much anything they could put a lid on. Mason jars, old growlers, new growlers, your shoe, like whatever. And so I said, how the hell are you pulling all this off? Let's talk about how you are going to make $1 when you can't have your door open. And it gave us all great communication with each other, probably connections that we would not have made otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so much that, like, this past spring, I was out on a fishing trip and I made sure I swung down to Juniata just to say, hey, face to face, we're the guys that talked. And I'm having a beer, and how are things going? And I know they're doing all right. They just had there's a video place, Portland, PA. They just did a little piece on them not too long ago.
Nice.
So they're still alive. They're doing their thing, and that's awesome. On the other side, I know there are places that closed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It happens. And it happens when there's good times and there's bad times. Did COVID help? No, hell no, it didn't help.
Mm-hmm. Well, and craft beer has been for quite a while now a pretty crowded market. I mean, it's a unique industry where, like, crowding isn't as impactful as it is in other industries because of that collaborative spirit that you talked about. And I think craft breweries are uniquely suited to weather the pandemic more so than other, like, service industry sectors, because they're mostly small businesses that are pretty light on their feet and able to pivot easily. And because you mentioned that collaboration and communication that doesn't really happen. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast since day one about how much of a community the craft beer industry is and how much, brewers talk to each other and share secrets and stuff. And, that strength that the industry had, I think, is why so many breweries still opened during the pandemic, even though sadly a lot, did have to close. But I think all those factors made the beer industry uniquely suited to weather the storm.
Speaking of, I did want to make a mention, my next beer. The Other Half location in Philadelphia is now open. I only went and got a 4-pack to go because it was a shit show because a lot of people were there. But cheers to them and the new location for anyone in the Philly area. It's in the former Goose Island spot right by the Fillmore. Is that Northern Liberties? We always have the discussion about where the lines are.
Technically Fishtown, I think.
I just call it
Northern Liberties.
by the Fillmore.
By the Fillmore.
But
it's new.
It's right by the Fillmore. That's now a neighborhood.
I know exactly where that is.
But so the only Steph beer that they had in cans to go was their Pilsner, which is called Crickets.
Did you say the only Steph beer?
Well, everything else was like fruited sours and hazy IPAs and like imperial pastry stouts and a lot of things with lactose, which I steer clear of. But I was maybe making fun of myself as one of those people that orders the Pilsner. But I'm like, did they name this because they would go, anybody want a Pilsner? And there'd be crickets.
Crickets. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, but it is a delightful beer, and the changes they made to the spot are pretty cool. So it's always neat to see the Philadelphia beer scene continuing to grow. As some don't continue on. It is positive to see some more growth. So cheers to them opening, and that is my next beer.
Cool spot
nice.
too. I've only been there when it was Goose Island. I haven't been since it changed, but real cool spot.
Speaking of breweries that were affected and may have closed because of COVID, Second Story is closed.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, I just double checked on their Instagram. So they were closed all of January, and then their last post was, "We're not done, but this is it for a while."
I thought there was an event coming up there that I just saw. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and sad, Blackbird Pizza.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I'm
see
glad
that.
you got
No
to
more.
go there one more time.
So I went one more time and ordered 3 vegan cheesesteaks to go.
You have to. But there's always Triangle Tavern.
Yeah, they have a good vegan cheesesteak.
I mean,
It's
Joe
not the
Steaks has a
same.
really good one. Joe Steaks has a good one. I mean, and that's probably the problem. Everybody makes one now, but they're like the OG. And
Yeah. No, that's the first time I ever had seitan, and it was delicious. And I owe that to you. Did I ever tell you I went in there and I ordered wings and I asked if they were boneless because I just that was a normal question to me when I order wings.
Are my vegan
Are they,
wings
that
boneless?
means do they have a stick in or
Yeah,
not?
no,
Yeah.
the person I was with reminded me that's a possibility, but no, I asked if they were boneless.
Yeah.
because I'm an idiot.
Should we play a game?
I was gonna say, yeah,
Is
I
it
think,
game
that is
time?
that is transition time.
I
Yeah.
must have been reading your minds because I already have it open on my phone.
Me too. No, not really.
I felt it.
I have no idea.
Fair enough. That's okay. You don't really need an idea in this game.
It's better if you don't.
Cheers, Internet, and welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, the podcast trivia segment that got it yesterday 10% off. We are joined today by co-owner and brewer at Therapy Brewing, Chris Corriga from Therapy Brewing. He will be competing against my co-hosts Dan and Steph for absolutely no prizes in Happy Fun Time Battle. And today we are playing a new game.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Whoa.
I know. I haven't done a new game in a very long time. So it's sort of a variation on a lot of the different games that we do. I'm calling this game What Band Made This Beer?
Okay.
So this is a list of beers that are collaborations with musical acts.
I wrote an article
I feel like
on
I'm
this.
going to be good at this.
No, I wrote an article on this years ago, and I guarantee you pulled like 2 or 3 from there, and I'm not going to remember.
I did not from your article specifically, but these may have been in it. I don't remember. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a beer and give you 3 multiple choice options. What the band is that collaborated on that beer.
Okay.
All right, and we will begin, as we almost always do, to my left with Dan. First up, a golden lager from Pittsburgh's Voodoo Brewing Company. While the band that collabed on this beer is not native to Pittsburgh, one of their songs, for which the beer is named, has a connection to Steelers football. Is that band Styx, Kansas, or Foreigner?
I'm going to go Foreigner.
Dan is going...
I have reasoning that I don't want to give away. But
Okay. Save your reason for now. Steph?
I mean, I feel like I should also say foreigner.
Steph is also saying Foreigner, I guess, because...
I have no idea. So Dan seems confident.
I
so
I gave it away by saying I have reasoning. I don't know if I'm
Right.
right, but like to me it makes sense.
See, now he's hedging. Now he's trying to walk back that lack of poker face. Finally, Chris, do you think Dan is confident?
I have no idea. I'm gonna say Kansas to be the oddball, but
All right. Picking a different answer. Absolutely no one was correct.
Really, it was Styx.
It was Styx.
Wow.
Yes, it was.
Wait a minute.
Styx.
What's the name of the beer?
It's called Oh Mama. Those being
yeah.
the first words of their 1979 hit, Renegade.
Okay.
Oh Mama, I'm in fear.
See, I figured Styx is a Chicago band. Kansas is,
Kansas band?
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Chicago's a
From there,
Chicago band.
yeah.
So the band has roots in Chicago's. The song Renegade has become an iconic part of Steelers football games. Since a playoff game in 2002, the song has accompanied a compilation of defensive highlights shown on video screens at Heinz Field in the third quarter while the crowd sings along. So there you go. Football tradition became a beer. No one was right. We move on to beer number 2, and Steph is going to guess first on this one. This one is another golden brew, but this one is a golden ale made by Henderson Brewing Company, which is in Ontario, Canada. When it was released, one of the members of the band who lent their name to the beer said on Instagram, "We've been busy inventing a thing called beer. It's kind of like a ham sandwich without the bread or ham and comes in a can like a ham sandwich. Also, you can drink it." Was that band the Guess Who, Rush, or America?
I don't know. The first band you said. I don't freaking know.
The first band you said. That would be the
I
Guess
thought
Who.
I was so confident going into this.
Well, see, the thing is, all of these bands that have collaborated on beers are like bands that like our dad listens to
Which therefore, like, we listen to
as
also.
well, but they're also like like the music that was popular when we were in high school is now classic rock, and this was classic rock when we were in high
I
school.
guess that makes that oldies.
Yes. Anyway, the Guess Who, Rush, or America? Chris, what do you think?
I'm going Rush.
Going with Rush, rushing in with Rush, Dan.
I'm gonna go Rush. I think the Guess Who are Canadian, but Rush are the like more famous Canadians.
You are correct. It was Rush, and the Guess Who is also Canadian. America is understandably not. Rush Canadian Golden Ale was brewed by Henderson Brewing Company in collaboration with the namesake prog rock legends. The idea for the collaboration was sparked in 2017 when the band's camp contacted Henderson Brewing, but it did not come to fruition until just last year, in 2021. The brewery worked with guitarist Alex Lifeson and singer-bassist Geddy Lee to develop the recipe. There you go. Rush in with Rush. Moving on to what is our penultimate beer of the game, and Chris is up to guess first on this. Next up, a pale ale from Seattle's Elysian Brewing that was brewed in collaboration with a quintessentially 80s hair band for the 2018 tour they co-headlined with Journey. On the joint effort, Elysian CEO Joe Bisacca said, "For our brand, our ethos is guitar, bass, and drums. It's not ballady, it's not a quiet love song, it's hardcore rock." But who supplied that rock? Was it Cinderella, Whitesnake, or Def Leppard?
I hope it was Whitesnake. I love Whitesnake.
I love that phrase. I hope it was Whitesnake. If we get nothing else this evening, take that home with you. Dan?
Def Leppard.
Dan saying Def Leppard. And finally, Steph.
Who did they co-headline with?
Journey.
That's what was going through my mind.
Yeah. I can't see the other two bands co-headlining with Journey. Who's co-headlining with them right now?
I figured it was going to be like REO Speedwagon.
I'll also say Def Leppard.
Baby. Good choice, because the answer was Def Leppard. Sorry.
Oh, thank
Fun
God.
fact,
Whitesnake.
I did actually know this.
I kind of figured you did, and this was the one I thought you would know.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we may have talked about
I
this.
think so. I
before?
remember the artwork, and I also remember that I related it to a radio job I almost got.
Yeah,
because
it's
Elysian
just-
brewed a beer for a morning show in Seattle.
Also, like, just staggering that was 5 years ago at this point, 2018. Doesn't feel like it was 5 years ago. But it was 4 years ago. Oh, geez, I'm making it worse. It was 4 years ago. I can't even do math. But yes, it was Def Leppard, and we only have one beer left in the game, so we're going to add up the score real quick to see who's in first, second, third place, or otherwise. Dan has 2 points. Steph and Chris both have 1 point, which means we're going to make Dan guess first, so you guys get to hear his answer.
Oh, crap.
In the hopes of possibly tying the game. I didn't really tell you about this beer. It's Def Leppard Pale. It combines what's best about British beer and American beer, hops and malts and yada, yada, yada. Not really much interesting. So, final beer of the game.
Just like Def Leppard.
Yeah, pretty much. Pour some sugar on me, Dan. You are going to guess first on this one. Our last beer, we head all the way back to 2013.
Ooh, okay.
When Flying Monkeys Craft Brewery released an Imperial Chocolate Stout aged on organic Ecuadorian cacao nibs. The resulting beer was luscious with a fudgy body and as quirky as the musical act that collaborated on its creation. Was it Cake, Bare Naked Ladies, or They Might Be Giants?
Oh no. 2013. Where was the brewery? Did you say?
I did not say.
Okay.
And I don't know if I made a note of it.
Flying,
so I'm not sure.
Flying Monkey.
Flying
Monkey. Cake, Bare Naked Ladies, They Might Be Giants. I'm gonna go with They Might Be Giants.
All right, Dan going with They Might Be Giants. We'll go to Steph next. What do you think?
Okay, then I will say Bare Naked Ladies.
Steph is saying Bare Naked Ladies. Finally, Chris.
Gosh, I'd like to say They Might Be Giants, but I'm going to say Cake just in case.
All right, just to hopefully maybe tie the game.
It's a game here. I got tied up.
A strategic decision. A good strategic decision, unfortunately, does not pay off because it is Bare Naked.
Hey, all right.
Hey.
Yes.
I knew it wasn't Cake. If it was Cake, I would know this.
Yeah, that was the one I put Cake in. I was like, Steph's going to know it's not Cake. But
Cake is one of the best bands of all time.
yes, Cake is
Don't
one of
front with
Steph's
me.
favorite bands. It's no longer brewed. It was called B&L Imperial Chocolate Stout and bore the tagline, "If I had 2 million Ecuadorian cacao nibs, I would brew you an Imperial Chocolate Stout."
Wow.
They said it was opaque as chocolate cake, roasty, and poured topped with a whipped mocha froth. It was not rusty. And like great music was meant to be
If it was
shared
rusty, they got a problem.
with friends and family. I just made you say underwear. All right, so we're going to add up our final tally here to see who our big winners are, and we have a two-way tie for first place with 2 points apiece. Dan and Steph, congratulations. Woo, woo, woo. And just behind, with 1 point, not nothing, is our guest, Chris. Thank you so much for playing. No prize for winning, no punishment for losing, just the satisfaction or shame, whichever is appropriate. But this is the part of the podcast where we shout out to our most generous patrons on Patreon. We would like to thank the following individuals very sincerely, beginning with Jen McDonald,
There's a hot dog I have to grab.
PA Brew Review,
How big is it?
Eric Dixon,
I have a ball that's this big coming at my face, you know?
Dana,
I love all people.
James Lamberg,
Let's do baby juices.
Chris Mahoney,
Let's talk about cheese.
Sean Sullivan, Brian Mills,
You guys want a bonus beer?
Jill Chivers,
Tofurkey.
the one and only That's No Baloney, Joe Mansell,
So sticky.
Topher Simmons, that was the remix,
Beer is every place.
and Ben Mangle.
Spill the beer.
Spill the beer. If you want to find out how you get on this list and other cool behind-the-scenes perks, as always, go to patreon.com/beerbusters to sign up to support the podcast. But for now, let's settle up our tab.
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
Did you know the idea that carrots give you better vision is a myth?
Yes.
Do you know where it came from?
Bugs Bunny.
No. In World War II,
Whoa.
the British developed radar, and they wanted to keep that secret from the Germans. So they spread the idea that the reason their pilots were so good, even at night, was because they ate so many carrots, and that gave them better vision.
Those limey Brits.
If you haven't been eating carrots or using radar, you might need glasses. And buying glasses can be a pain, and they can be expensive. Enter Warby Parker. Warby Parker makes buying glasses online easy and risk-free. How? By giving you a free 5-day trial to try on 5 pairs of frames to get feedback from all your friends, your enemies, your relatives, whatever, and then send back the ones you don't want, risk-free, no charge. That's it. And not only that, for every pair of glasses that Warby Parker sells, they distribute a pair of glasses to someone in need. How awesome is that? They also offer non-prescription polarized sunglasses and prescription polarized sunglasses. How can you get on this game? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. Go to warbyparkertrial.com/beerbusters for your free 5-day try-at-home trial. That's warbyparkertrial.com/beerbusters.
There's so many good bands that have made collaboration beers.
I know. But the
couldn't
good
even
ones
give-
you know about.
Well, true.
That's the problem.
I feel like that was a strategic game to make it hard.
It was.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I make these games, the biggest thing I have to think is, what will Steph and Dan already know? And what have we already talked about on the podcast that they will remember?
Steph will know things I won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of those bands were more Dan bands than Steph bands. Like, you can even give Run the Jewels a shout out. They've done so many collaborations.
I was going to do Run the Jewels, and the reason they got cut from the list, I had more. I wanted to pare it down to 4. The reason I cut Run the Jewels is because they had so many beers, and I couldn't just focus on one.
That's all right. I appreciate that you took the time and energy to create a new game. It was very fun.
Thank you. And I like this game. I'll do it again. Okay. And I'll include cooler, less old bands.
Now, wait a minute. I listen to that stuff.
No, I like most of the bands that were in this game too. I do, but they're certainly not what our TikTok fans are listening to.
Gotcha. Right.
You know?
I've actually seen Def Leppard in concert, not by choice, but I did see
they
them
put
in
on a
concert.
good show.
Def Leppard.
I enjoy Journey. I like Journey.
Yeah.
Hey, my last concert was Hall & Oates.
Hall & Oates.
You're the second
last-
person I talked to this week whose last concert was Hall & Oates, and I'm jealous.
It was
My
really
last
good.
concert was the Dropkick Murphys, and it was last night.
Oh, in Reading.
right.
My buddy went to that last night.
No
he
way.
He had a ticket. He was like, I have an extra ticket. Show up at 7:00.
Oh yeah.
I saw it at 8:00. But,
Oh, no.
well, I'm not nearby. I'm going to shoot 2.5
Yeah.
hours. to
Yeah,
get
Yeah,
there,
that wouldn't have
but-
been.
I'm like 15 minutes from that arena.
Oh, wow.
It's a very local venue. Yeah, it was a really good show. I enjoyed the opening bands as well. And apparently, we left at 11. Somebody told us they played till like 11:40 or something. I don't know if that's accurate.
Wow.
On a
But
side
I was like,
yeah.
I got to work tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock. It's my
I
bedtime.
haven't often left a concert before it was over. We did at Brewery at Hershey. We left before that show was over. That time we went there.
Oh, yeah, Blues Traveler was on.
Yeah. But that's because that was a shit show getting in and out of there.
Yeah, that was rough.
But yeah, I can't really think of any other concerts I've left. I walked out of movies. I walked out of Spice World.
Wait a minute. I saw that with you.
Yeah, we didn't
You
finish
walked
it.
out?
You did not properly spice up your life.
Yeah. I remember staying until Meatloaf's cameo and then leaving.
I don't think I left early. I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure I
know.
stayed for the whole thing.
That could be a false memory too.
So are these
You
like
may have
those
like fallen asleep.
Is
or
this one of those
something.
tangents that you guys?
Yeah, this is very much a tangent. Sorry, this is very
the
much.
movies we've walked out on.
Yeah, we go on weird tangents. We're also I don't know if you're aware because we don't mention it. We're all related. Dan's my brother and Steph's our cousin, so we've known each other our whole
Gotcha.
lives. So,
Literally our whole lives.
but let's talk about beer and therapy brewing.
Good and a
Just
bad
trying to think
thing.
of what movies I walked out on.
Oh.
Saw 2's the only one that's coming to mind.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a wuss.
It's a bit intense.
Now I was thinking, Steph, you were talking about the beers that are Steph beers to go, and if in our light conversation of what beer do we contract brew, none of them are hazy, none of them are hoppy, and none of them have lactose.
Yay!
So all of them fit what you like. And I think again, that's a definite minority thing to go. People want that big beer, that double IPA. They don't want the single. Like, give me the double. If you have a triple, I'll take that instead.
Yeah.
And I want all those flavors and the fruits and the lactose and those, like some of those sours that are hard to get out of the can.
Yeah.
And that's and I'm looking at it going, no, I want the a well-made, easy drinking beer in a can.
Well, and I think we all go on a beer journey. And I think for some of us, we've been drinking beer and part of the craft beer world for so long that, you know, we've gone through those phases. Like I started, Hefeweizens were my very first favorite beer style. Corona and like Yingling were first, but I remember the first time I was I went to Harpoon Brewing in Boston, and I had their UFO and their raspberry UFO. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I got into German wheat beers. And that was sort of my introduction into beer.
Right.
And I loved like, bitter IPAs and West Coast IPAs. And, you know, I drank IPAs for a long time. And at some point in my drinking timeline, I've enjoyed every single beer style there is. But now I'm sort of at the point where I just want a beer that's easy drinking. And I appreciate the ability to drink a beer that is not going to kill the meal or kill the evening and get me drunk too fast, or I don't know. And I'm also at the point where I'm okay with drinking the same beer over and over again. Like we talked about the what's new, and believe me, I was the queen of that for a long time. I was obsessed with, I need as many unique check-ins on Untapped as possible.
There was a point where you just refused to drink the same beer twice.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I would, if I checked it in on Untapped before, I would not drink it again. I was so obsessed with getting to that 10,000 badge. And now I'm at the point where I don't even look at half of a tap list. I'm like, these are the styles that I know I want to drink right now. And I want to have a whole pint of something, or maybe a couple pints. And, you know, that's where I am in my craft beer journey. And it's funny because my brother lives on the other side of the country, so I don't get to see him very often, but he and I have a share of love of beer. And, you know, it had been a couple years since I'd seen him, mainly because of the pandemic. And we met up a few months ago, and he was drinking hazy IPAs, and he brought me a 4-pack of a hazy IPA from a brewery out by him. And I'm like, the hell are you giving me this for? And he's like, oh, I love them right now. I'm like, who are you? Like, this is the guy, like imperial stouts and like quads and triples and barley wines. And like, that was his jam. And I mean, he still likes those beers, but all of a sudden he's drinking hazy IPAs. And he's like, why? What are you drinking? I'm like, lagers. I'm like, has it been this long since we drank beer together that we don't even know our own beer styles that we like? But, you know, I think we do go on this journey, and and we've had this conversation before about not shaming people for the beers, because we did go on this tangent for a long time where I feel like we may have shamed people for liking hazy IPAs, but it's just part of your journey. Nobody's going to drink the exact same. Well, I take that back. Our grandfather has been a Budweiser drinker his entire life. That's his beer, you know, that's his go-to. But for those of us that are in the craft beer world, our tastes are going to evolve. You know, just like Chris, you as a brewer, what you like to brew is going to evolve, and your thoughts about beers and ideas, and you're going to travel, and who knows, maybe you'll go to Belgium and like fall in love with some of those styles and want to brew more of them. I mean, our tastes are going to evolve and change.
He's
and
shaking his head at that notion.
I know it's just part of our journey right now. And
yeah, I've got friends that were nothing but diehard IPA drinkers. Like, give me Palate Wrecker every damn day if I can have it. And the last time I saw them, he was drinking the Pilsner. He goes, I'll take a 4.5% Pilsner every damn day if I can now. And so he's certainly changed. Those West Coast guys are learning what hazy IPA is and New England IPA, and there's loose definitions for all of these, but it's new to them, and so they're enjoying it. I don't blame that at all. Hell, I'm going to brew a West Coast IPA because people around here don't know what it is. Are they going to fall in love with it? Am I going to be a game changer? No, I'm not, and that's okay. But everyone's got those different tastes that they go for, and I agree with you. There's sometimes where just give me the full pint and let me be able to walk the hell out of there instead of a 9% bomb, and I'm going to need help to the car.
There is my journey. I have traditionally been hey, give me the 13, 14% barrel-aged whatever stout you have. I have like 7 or 8 bottles of some kind of barrel-aged something or other in the kegerator over here that I haven't even touched because I'm mostly a lager guy now. I infamously at one point called a 13% beer sessionable because I was like, oh yeah, it's just I could drink it all day because I didn't know any better, but also like I'm stupid. But like now I'm a lager guy and I appreciate the West Coast IPAs, and it's rare that I order the big boozy ones anymore.
Yeah,
because you're right, I want to be able to walk out of there.
So when you say lager guy,
yes, not like Yingling lager.
Well, we're Pennsylvania folks, so like that's kind of standard.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the Yingling. I had one the other day.
So, like, that world of lager is absolutely huge.
Oh, gigantic! Yeah,
I have an amber lager on right now that is got so much flavor and full body, it's ridiculous. But another lager, Pilsner, is a lager.
Yep,
light, crisp, and easy drinking. And if I put the two side by side, there are going to be people that drink A and they're not going to drink B, and vice versa. So that beer education world that we talked about earlier falls in line with even just the style or the yeast that we're using for that particular beer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to narrowly focus those thoughts to say, I like lagers or I like ales. Well, there's a style of one of those that I know you will like. Like we did a California Common last year. So that's a lager that's brewed at a warmer temperature.
Yeah.
Steph knows. Steph's is shaking her head. This is good.
Anchor.
Yes, Anchor Steam is the quintessential one. They're the ones that I won't say invented it. Hell, they didn't have ice. It was pretty easy. So we did one last summer, and we had to explain what a California Common was. And we actually had a couple from California that know it from the source, and they said they couldn't believe how well we did it. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any in the county to even compare it to. Anchor Steam, like Mid-State, that's our local distributor. They didn't carry it anymore. So I could not A to B my own beer. So fortunately, I had a couple from California give me the review.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, hot damn, like keep the recipe. You did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like the German guys that stopped by. So Trogs, if you haven't been to Trogs, I don't know why you're listening to this. But
I mean, especially if you live in Pennsylvania.
Like, oh my gosh, just go to Trogs. Their
the
pilot
pretzel.
system is bigger than my system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the guys, but the guys that put it in are all German guys, and they actually came up one weekend and visited us because they were doing some stuff at Trogs.
Oh, cool.
And I happened to have 3 German lagers on tap at the same time. And they could not have been much more different from each other. And I got wonderful feedback from them because it's what they're used to drinking.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you said that, if I said lager, I'll just go my extremes. I had a Helles on, and I had a Doppelbock on.
Very different beers, yes.
They're very different.
Mm-hmm.
So to pigeonhole into the style of I like lagers, you almost have to clarify a little bit more
True.
in a beer education conversation.
No, you're absolutely right, and I should have been more specific. Like we're drinking the Love City Lager. That is one of my go-tos. I appreciate all of them, but I think something along these lines are what I usually get, or a nice crispy Pilsner. And I appreciate, Oktoberfest and Märzen's and Amber Lagers and, all the other kinds, but I think this is usually my go-to.
You know what, though? If I'm going to have a dark beer, like if I see a Doppelbock or a Baltic
Oh,
Porter
my God,
on,
yeah.
There's just, there's some, I don't know, there's something different about it.
I've been to multiple places recently that had Dunkelweissens on.
No, that's one of my OG favorites.
Yeah, whenever I see that, I'm going to order that.
Dunkelweizen.
Yeah.
I love
That
a
was
good
one of my
Doppelbock.
favorite OG
Yeah.
beers.
Yeah. Well, and
we
I
just
think
talked about that.
Yeah. The more you get, I think one of the reasons why the tastes evolve, like what we went from like being, wanting the pastry stouts and the IPAs is I think when you first get into craft beer is you do seek those intense flavors.
Yeah.
Like that's what you
Yeah.
want. You want an intense experience, like every beer you have. And I'm the kind of person who always needs a variety. I need like 5 different sauces to dip my chicken nuggets in or whatever. So like that carries into beer as well. And a lot of beer drinkers say they have to try everything. But I think that is like, you just go through that phase of like this intense flavor, this new thing I've just discovered. And then as you learn more and you learn to appreciate, maybe we should say traditional styles, old world styles, and people start to gravitate towards more easy drinking things because it's not about the intense experience anymore. Now it's about appreciating the nuance of a well-crafted beer.
Yeah.
And I think that's that journey from like, pastry stout to IPA to Helles, that a lot of people go through as they go through craft beer. And I think that's kind of what sparks it,
Yeah,
and I'm all for that journey of finding
Yeah.
that new one.
Yeah.
That, and in this case, I mean, you're talking to Therapy Brewing. Shoot, so you're looking for people that are trying to find that new place to go. We had a couple that they have a list of breweries in Pennsylvania, and they're trying to visit all of them. And their list changes all the time for those
Yeah.
openings and closings. So there's 300 odd on there that they are trying to complete, and they've got no time frame for it. They just want to go visit a place.
Right.
And it's the same thing with those beer styles. When we started finding that we didn't really like Miller Lite anymore, let's go find something different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be things that we gravitate to, and our tastes are certainly going to change, just like Steph was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Mine have. They do every year.
Yeah. Yeah. Wayne, I like what you said about the experience because I feel like that's kind of where I was with a lot, especially when you get the barrel-aged stuff,
Yeah.
Let me see what he can do with all that. Now I appreciate being able to drink something lighter and I can stay on my feet.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
It's like a super rich curry is really nice, but so is like, some French fries sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have super complicated flavors.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and when you visit a brewery that you've never been to before, you do kind of want to experience the gamut of what they create.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
went to Von C Brewing for the first time a few weeks ago. And of course they have bangin' lagers. I overheard that the brewer or one of the owners, their favorite brewery is Jack's Abbey. I'm like, oh my God, this guy likes Jack's Abbey. This is a place for me. But I was curious, like, what does their porter taste like? They had an English ale of some sort on. And, so we did do a few flights because I wanted to experience the story of that brewery, but I also wanted a couple pints of the Helles as well. So, I'm not the girl that's not getting flights anymore. Believe me, I still like to try all of those things, but I'm going to get a pint of what I want to drink. And luckily, a brewery like that, I can also get cans to go. So we did get a 4-pack of the Helles to go. And they had a Schwartz beer too. We got a crowler of the Schwartz beer.
I had a Schwartz beer the other night too.
Oh, I've
Tonewood.
been begging
Tonewood
this
makes
for
one
years.
A lager.
Everyone needs to make Schwartz beers.
A very dark one.
Yeah.
Schwartz beers are so good. Like you don't even know. It's like. they're
Oh, I
just
know.
so
we
good.
have one called Bike Schwartz. we have a local bike club that we work with. It's a high school mountain bike club. So a portion of the proceeds go to the club.
Oh, that's nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we named it Bike Schwartz.
I appreciate a punny beer name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So if people want to find out more about Therapy Brewing, where should they go? I had to be sure to throw in the word brewing because that's a whole different conversation otherwise.
Yeah.
I love calling people and say, "Hey, it's Chris from Therapy." I never say brewing. To find Therapy Brewing, we've got a website, therapybrewing.com. You can reach us on Facebook. We've got Instagram. I do not do TikTok. I have no idea how to tweet anything. The pour list the tap list that's on our website is horribly updated because I'm in charge of it. So check Facebook for local listings. And like I said, we always have something easy to drink, something that's hoppy, and we play with everything in between. We aren't a sour brewery, though there's one coming out the first week of June because we find that's a good time to do it, and you can enjoy it for the summertime. Those are the easiest ways. Reach out to us. It's easy.
I wanted to mention on the website you have a really I'm gonna say entertaining FAQ section.
Oh, thank you.
And that there was a chicken that visited the brewery at one point.
Yes, we actually had on the FAQ. It's about bringing your dogs, and we kind of said like if you're going to bring your therapy cow or another animal like a chicken, like let us know ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then sure as shit, one day somebody brought a chicken and sat out on the hill with their chicken drinking a beer.
That's amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, I hope you went out and took some pictures for your social media page.
Well, it was one of those days where I was swamped. I was told it was happening, and I couldn't get away to actually see it. And I don't know if PLCB allows chickens inside a brewery.
I would assume not.
I mean,
I would
dogs
think like
are.
the chicken on the tire swing with like a beer there, like
Oh my god.
it could have
I
been.
hope so. I hope they listen to this. If you listen to this, post some pictures up. I need to see. Bring the chicken back.
Bring the chicken back for a planned photo shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we get snowmobilers, we get 4-wheelers, we get ATVs and side by sides. We get all that stuff. So
Cool.
like we've seen it all. The lady with the horse, she came up, took a look around. The horse did not like kids. There were some kids there. She left. We're dog friendly, mainly outside. That's the biggest thing. There's some allergy issues that people tend to forget about. It's this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see me, I don't mind your dog coming in to get a beer, but like then you need to go outside.
Yeah,
and that's me. And I don't mind saying that to you either.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the kids. This is kind of the humorous part.
Yes. Thank you for saying it because I was afraid to.
Our kid FAQ is basically outdoors are better for children, and just kind of look at our pet policy.
Yeah, refer to the pet policy.
Yeah, for the kid policy.
Basically the same.
But also the pet policy is like keep them leashed up, and then the kids one is refer to the pets.
Yeah, and I have 3 boys, and my coworker here, he's got 2 kids himself. And at one point, like there was a lot of partners that were in this at the very beginning, and we were outnumbered by children.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. So like we don't mind kids coming at all.
That's
but
good.
there's a my grandmother used to say there's a time and place when they should be seen and heard.
Yes.
Could go to
So
what
just
is it,
keep
Milford
that
Academy?
in mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Neither seen nor heard.
Yeah. But with all that outdoor space, I feel like,
Yeah.
it's a good place to get the kids exhausted and, keep them
Yeah, it's not bad. It's
too
not
far
bad.
away. Yeah.
Cool. Well, while you're out there looking at therapy, also, look at therapy too, but look at therapy brewing pertaining to this episode. Remember, we're at Beer Busters on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are on Facebook. We're Beer Busters Podcast. There's beerbusterspodcast.com/shop is where you get all the cool things that Wayne designed. There's YouTube. We are Beer Busters Podcast. And there's, of course, patreon.com/beerbusters. Little as $1 a month gets you access to all the cool things like Last Call and the behind-the-scenes feed and lots of other goodies that we'll throw your way and send bonus content. There's the magic word that you can get your eyes, ears, and potentially hands on. No
In
hands.
that order.
No hands.
If you buy some merch.
That's true. Yeah, you
Buy
get
some merch,
yeah,
put
but
it on you.
you don't have to be a patron for the merch.
No, you don't have
Yeah.
to, but
But it helps. You feel better when you are a patron and you wear our merch. That's a scientific
that's
fact.
true. That's true.
Well, Chris, thank you for
Scientific fact.
Yes, exactly. Chris, thank you for joining us, man. This was great. It was a pleasure.
Heck yeah, nice meeting you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah, you as well.
And I'm learning there's a lot of places I need to go outside of Philly. So I feel like we should make a day of it and go up. We'll visit you. We'll go to New Trail. We'll go to Ceilings Grove. You mentioned them too. We'll have a good old time.
Anyway, and I haven't been to Philly.
Come on down to Philly.
So when it comes
Wait,
time,
like ever?
Yeah.
Wait,
wow,
for real?
I didn't take it as that way, but wow, that's
like
impressive, really.
like I don't want to say it out loud too, but like no, I haven't been.
That's
It's
impressive.
time.
I haven't been
Quakertown.
to
I got to Quakertown.
I haven't been to Pittsburgh.
No, it's not.
I've been to Pittsburgh for like
Yeah.
16
I've gone
hours.
through Pittsburgh, but I've never
Yeah.
been in Pittsburgh.
No, Pittsburgh's easy. Like I've gone to Pittsburgh a couple times.
Yeah.
That's easy. But like I can't say Philly's hard. I have no idea. But
We have fewer bridges.
I suspect it's harder to get in and out of than Pittsburgh. I don't know Pittsburgh, but I know Philly.
Yeah.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, so there's less traffic in Pittsburgh, but man, those bridges can be confusing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
Like we have less bridges in Philly, but
They change which way the lanes go.
Oh,
and
that
then all of a
makes
sudden
no
it's a bus
sense.
lane. All of a sudden, you're in a
I know
bus
what you
lane.
mean.
And you're like,
Yeah,
how did
yeah,
this
yeah.
happen?
Yep.
I drove over, I don't know, 1 or 2 of the bridges when I was there, and I'm glad none of them did that weird shit.
Yep.
Have you had a troubling encounter with a bridge? If so, write us at info@beerbusterspodcast.com.
Yes,
Now with the
exactly.
day and age of like cell phones with GPS, it's a lot less complicated.
Yeah.
But I remember the days of like printing out
Oh,
MapQuest directions.
And you're being like, turn here. That turn does
Nope.
not exist.
Nope, I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't survive that way.
I
That
don't
was a
miss
hard,
those
that was a
days.
hard thing when we first opened
I
to get
imagine.
there. The pin. So my square here, we have 200 acres. So the road's down here at the bottom. And this is where the brewery is, like my chin. And the center of the property is closer to this dirt road.
Oh.
So like people would go on the dirt road and there's no cell service.
Oh,
So
no.
they're going to drive for like a long time and
Yeah.
eventually go, how do we get to you? We went to the pin. I'm like, no, you're on the wrong road. Like,
Whoops.
Yeah, that's annoying.
yeah. So it was really tricky from a rural standpoint.
Mhm.
Every delivery of the first year got messed up.
Wow.
It's when the
Just
internet
be-
fails you.
Oh yeah. Every trucker I'd go, I know you have GPS. Do not follow it.
Don't listen
Yeah.
to it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You need to listen to what I'm going to say to you. And,
But then how many would still follow the GPS instead of your directions?
half of them.
Okay. That's
Sounds
about
about
what I
right.
figured.
Sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah. And they wouldn't get terribly lost. They would get the next cell service. And I go, listen, you didn't listen to me.
Man, I told you. I told you what to do. We wouldn't be in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yep.
There you go. So if you when you decide to visit Therapy Brewing, just keep that in mind.
Call them.
And
Talk
call
to
us.
Chris.
And
Yeah.
call them.
Let's
And
see.
also they have a bigger sign now.
Right.
It's not, you still have to find it though. Stay on the blacktop.
I guess it doesn't help if you can't see the sign. That's a very good point. Good point, well made.
Oh, man. Well, I think, unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. And seriously, Chris, thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. I promise I'm going to find my way out there. Hopefully you'll have the ESB back on, or some form of... I know. It
Something
won't be
good.
that one, but yeah, I trust you. You'll make something good. And
There
I'll
will be
drink
good
it,
things.
and I'll go, look at a windmill and a tree and a swing.
Perfect.
And maybe a chicken.
Maybe a chicken. Bring the chickens.
No, bring some chicken or something else to eat.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And share it with Chris.
Of course. Well, hey, my name is Dan Baker. I'm joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and the demented and fermented.
Wayne Baker.
No squids were harmed, and we'll see you next time.
There's trees.
No chickens, were harmed either.
Baby
No
chicks.
chickens were
Baby
harmed.
chicks happened at one point.
But none were harmed in this.
That's what right. They weren't harmed in that one either.
I'm no longer comfortable with this conversation.